So I was kind of taking a trip down memory lane, and I was thinking about like the first time I kind of understood what anime was. And it's hard not to go back to like the Blockbuster video and like that time where you'd go with your family to look at all the VHS tapes, and they had, the anime section, which tended to have a lot of like kind of explicit looking stuff that you
Mm-hmm.
probably weren't supposed to watch. And I was wondering if that was also your first experience with anime, or how you kind of like discovered what this was.
So my family, I don't remember us renting videos that much. We played a lot of video games more than we like watched TV, I think. My first encounter with anime was probably on Toonami on Cartoon Network, which is also, so that means like Dragon
Mm-hmm.
Ball Z and Sailor Moon were like the first animes that I saw probably. So I don't have the same experience as you. It was it had to be Toonami. Like I can't remember anything before that.
That was a lot of people's first experiences in the US, I think. I was already watching anime from Blockbuster before that, and like reading comics and reading whatever manga would come over here. But
Mm,
we have a lot to thank Toonami for, because I think that was
yeah.
really like the moment when it was like, oh, there's all these other cartoons that are made in Japan. And then you get to have a war where you're like, don't call it a cartoon. It's so much different. It's anime.
Yeah, and it felt, I guess that was probably a turning point in the US for like animated things not just being for kids, because that was definitely like there was a shift, right? That you can probably draw a line from like modern adult animated shows like not for kids and like Toonami, I bet.
Yeah, that's a whole topic for sure, because like the Blockbuster videos I'm talking about were definitely not for kids, but they were also
Right.
like giant naked boobs and like
Right.
basically softcore porn, and like trying to explain to your mother why you wanted to watch that was like really awkward, because it wasn't really that you wanted to watch that, it's that you were just so interested in like, yeah, a different kind of adult, like something that was beyond like just like kind of for little kids stuff, like you wanted to
Mhm.
explore more mature topics.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I have very specific memories of the Toonami guy who's kind of like a reverse Skeletor situation going on because he has like a big head but like a small body. And then I think at some point they like revamped him and then he seemed more like Master Chief. But the original Toonami guy had a big head and a little robot
Oh my
body.
gosh, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
Well, when I got into Toonami and anime, it was when I was in my precious preteen years. A lot of things were happening at once. I was, I guess, like learning about like things I was interested in, and stories I was interested in, characters that I would now know as shipping, like getting into actually like crushing on characters. And that's pretty much why we're talking about a very special character today from one of those Toonami animes. I'm your host, Miko,
And I'm Liz, and
and
this
this is
is the Hot Baddies
the Hot
Club.
Baddies Club. I'm going to try again there too. My best today.
I love those hot baddies. Hot Baddies Club, listen me. I just can't help myself. I just can't help myself. I love those hot baddies. I love those hot baddies. Hot Baddies Club.
I mean, what do you expect for the first episode of the first season, right? Like, you kind of
Yeah,
expect to have a little goofiness, right?
you can't have high expectations.
Stick with us.
Listen, these people don't know that we already tried recording test episodes and that there's we don't have that much excuse for this behavior.
Please don't turn it off.
Don't turn it
We
off.
promise it's going to get better.
Yeah.
So this is the Hot Baddies Club. This is our podcast where we talk about the characters that we crushed on throughout lots of different media. And today we're talking about an anime character, specifically Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. And I have such feelings about this. I have a lot of feelings and things I want to say. But since it is the first episode, I just wanted to kind of make sure we even say, what are we even doing here?
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a way for me and Liz. We really want to talk more about our favorite characters and just like really explore them and find more people that want to talk about these characters with us. We want to introduce you to some of our favorites and then maybe also learn about new characters that other people really like. And maybe we can introduce you to things that maybe you hadn't wanted to try before.
Yeah. That's a great point. We basically were like watching things or telling each other to watch things or read things or play things and then having talks about them. And we could talk for much longer than we will make the length of the podcast. We would get on the phone and be like, hey, do you want to talk about that book real quick? Like, yeah. And then like 4 hours later, our spouses are like, are you still on the phone?
That was the origin. It was basically when we started to make lists of like, here are the things I need to say during our talk that we knew that we should try to make this a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing we want to talk about is the structure. So what we wanted to do was introduce you to new things and also have like for people who are already fans, let's like really deep dive into everything. So what we're going to do is split it into 2 episodes per character. And what you're listening to now is the spoiler-free episode. So we're going to give you some information on who is this person we're talking about? Why do we think they're interesting? If you like other series, what is this similar to, basically? And then we're going to give you some info on how to dive into this character. Like, what is the things you should read or watch or whatever? Because for some of these series, and this happens to be one of them, it's pretty confusing. If you're just looking at a whole bunch of different seasons of a show and not sure like what can I ignore or like where's the actual starting point, it can get really overwhelming. So we're gonna try to help you with that too.
Yeah, especially for this one, because it might even be confusing starting Dragon Ball Z and being like, wait, is this the beginning?
Yeah,
it is the beginning, don't worry.
It's sort of the beginning and sort of not. It's immediately confusing in episode 1.
Or if you're like me and you hadn't engaged with this since whenever the original Toonami was, and it feels like a fever dream watching this because everything is like kind of familiar but not totally familiar.
Yes, and there's reasons for that too. So in general, we're more of a feelings podcast than a facts podcast. Like we're not usually here to be like, and this is the exact details of how this went down with this show or whatever. But I think for this one, we are going to go a little bit more detailed because it's such a big IP. Like it's such a big franchise that is globally known and maybe a little intimidating.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Generally, feelings over facts and also trying to talk about the things that people want to hear, but don't send us a million things about correcting us or something. I mean, at this point, I guess it would be nice to get anything, but like, don't expect us. We are not your number one source on Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball or these characters. Or
I'm preemptively I am apologizing for getting things wrong. Like there's only so much we can do, and every episode there's already a lot of research we're doing, and this one was a beast. Like we actually did a ton of research, and I know we didn't cover everything. There's too much.
Oh no,
to know.
There's so much. But yeah, we're doing our best, but we're not going to get everything right.
Episode 1, part 2 will be the spoiler episode. So
Yes.
this one will be where we are assuming that you don't care about spoilers or you are familiar with the character. And we're going to really get into like the feelings we have about them and the really cool things that they do. We're going to do a couple of special segments about this character specifically, and you're welcome to play along or theorize with us. And then, you know, some other surprises about just like interesting things. Really go into what makes this such a special character and why we hope you love them as much as we do.
Yeah. And also, hopefully, as we go on, if the podcast is liked, you'll be able to kind of like read along with us or like watch along or like post comments and stuff in our Discord. We're hoping to like have that going, but we'll see if it happens.
Yeah, Liz and I are both really active Discord users, and we would love to hang out with you there. And we hope that we can make a really cozy place where everyone can chat about the things that you're into and we can all geek out together. All right, so that I hope covers the general concept of our little club. Are you ready to get into this particular series, Dragon Ball Z?
Yes, Dragon Ball Z.
All right. So I wrote a lot of summary stuff about this, and it is a lot, but I'm going to try to, you know, I feel like it's important to just like a little bit touch on the whole origin story of what the heck this is, because it's such a big franchise, and it's also kind of interesting seeing how like things connect from one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into Vegeta himself, I just want to talk about the origin of this series. The Dragon Ball series is a manga and an anime. And if you're not familiar with that, manga is essentially a Japanese comic. They are typically black and white with maybe a few color pages. And they're delivered weekly in like these gigantic old telephone book, kind of huge, thick colored paper volumes. And then there's actually like different chapters in there for all the different series. You kind of subscribe to like a magazine and you get like 15 different manga chapters of different series.
And this is like what Shonen Jump is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. And an anime is, as we said, a Japanese cartoon. So both manga and anime are huge industries in Asia, specifically in Japan, but there are variations that are published in other countries with slightly different terminology. And this is also known as a shonen anime, which means shonen basically means boy. So it's aimed at teenage boys and younger boys. This series is also unique though because it was an interpretation of Journey to the West, which is a Chinese novel published in the 16th century and considered by some to be the most popular literary work in East Asia. So, as Westerners, we don't have that context at all. But in the novel, one of the main characters is Sun Wukong, or the Monkey King, and he uses an extending staff to fight with and a flying cloud to travel.
It sounds a lot like someone we know.
Yes.
Or someone you might all be soon to know.
So from there, Akira Toriyama, the creator, started to write Dragon Ball in 1984. And he started with this young boy named Son Goku. And this boy was a martial artist who had a lot of these Asian influences in the way he fought. And he had this staff, and he had the flying cloud, and he had a monkey tail. And this original series was kind of like a martial arts comedy action series. Didn't you say when you were reading it, it had like the longest genre listing or something?
Yeah, let me see if I can find it, because it's like it's already so popular, so I don't understand really why they wrote it this way, because like you don't have to say all this because it's already popular. Let me find it. Oh, okay. Dragon Ball. So this is the original one, not Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball is described as, quote, the greatest action, adventure, fantasy, comedy, fighting series ever.
Ever. which is a strong claim, but they kind of have the right to say that if they want to. I mean, I'm sure it's a little contentious, but they're definitely in the top. And
Mhm.
this is something that fans of Dragon Ball Z or people that are aware of Dragon Ball Z don't maybe know, is that it started off when Son Goku was a kid as Dragon Ball. It's 519 chapters long. He finished it in 1995, so that's 11 years later. And
That's just Dragon Ball.
yeah, well, I don't have a note about it. I think that might be everything, because this is where
Okay.
it starts to get complicated. Is essentially there was a big tonal shift when Goku becomes an adult, and that is the part where we call that Dragon Ball Z. But I think the manga has also been published just as Dragon Ball all the way to the end, even through the Dragon Ball Z. So it can even be confusing just trying to find the starting point of Dragon Ball Z, because it might just be called Dragon Ball and it's like
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle.
I don't know if you remember this, but when I was trying to figure out which ones to get from the library, and I was like, wait, why is this volume 17, but there's a
Yeah.
number 22 in the image?
Yeah.
It's because it's Dragon Ball volume whatever. Like, that's not
Yeah.
chapter, but like the volume. And so the art had that on it, but for Dragon Ball Z, it's not that. It's like a lower number. So there's
Yeah.
like two numbering systems that you might see some places where
Yes.
it's like Dragon Ball Z volume, whatever, Dragon Ball volume, some higher number.
Yes, and don't worry, we did all the numbers and the math, and we will give you exactly the volumes and the chapters to start with at the end of this episode.
Yeah, you don't have to accidentally check out the wrong volumes of Dragon Ball Z and then have to ask the librarian, like, hey, I know this came all the way from another library to get here, but I actually don't need this one.
Oh gosh. Yeah, so you don't need to read Dragon Ball to enjoy Dragon Ball Z, but the shortest version of the plot would be there's a lot of martial arts fighting, a lot of slapstick humor, and it follows Son Goku, who meets up with a beautiful genius girl named Bulma, and together they search the world for these Dragon Balls. And when you collect the 7 Dragon Balls, you get to make a wish. You summon a dragon, and so that is kind of the main gist of the plot. There's a tournament that we see recurring even in Dragon Ball Z. So, like, there's kind of this tournament of the strongest that happens a lot. But that's the gist of kind of all you need to know about Dragon Ball, unless you really want to go back and read through it.
Also, it's really helpful because the author, or maybe this is was edited in later, but especially at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, there'll be little asterisks that's like, this happened in Dragon Ball,
Yes.
and like give you a little note so like you know that you're not missing something.
Yeah, because there are a lot of characters that show up in like the first episode of Dragon Ball Z that are, returning and happy characters. If you're aware, it's already a super popular series, but for us Westerners that were going in with just episode 1, Dragon Ball Z, who are all these people that have like, clown makeup and third eyes and, green antenna? Like, who are they? Well, they're all characters from Dragon Ball. So the reason why it is a distinction, I think, is because Dragon Ball Z is an even bigger impact on pop culture than Dragon Ball was. It was one of the first animes to reach mainstream awareness in America through Toonami, as we discussed. And globally, it sold over 250 million volumes of manga, which is pretty wild. I think it's been translated and available in 80 countries or something like that.
Wow.
Even if you don't watch anime, you've probably seen references where someone's hair is turned blonde, or like a muscular guy is going like, ah, and like there's like a aura of light around him. Like that's kind of, I think, what people think of as Dragon Ball Z, and they're not necessarily wrong. There's definitely a lot of that in the show.
I mean, over 9,000.
Yes. One of my favorite memes.
Which in the manga is actually over 8,000.
Yeah, let's just destroy some dreams right now.
But in the anime, it's over 9,000. Yeah, I was shook.
Yeah, I was like, we've been doing it wrong this whole time. One of the reasons why people like Dragon Ball Z more, or why it's different, is it's just a more adult, darker, and action-packed series from the beginning. And it sort of sets a tone by Goku finding out in the in episode 1 that his heritage is not from Earth. I think that's okay to say because it is literally episode 1. They're like, you're an alien.
Yeah.
And we follow him and other defenders of Earth as they fight increasingly stronger enemies from space, but also later from even more mystical and unusual places. By the way, do you know why it's called Z? Because I did a little research on that.
I don't know.
Okay, so there were 2 accounts I saw. One is that Akira chose the letter Z because it's the last letter of the alphabet, and the other was that it stands for Zenkai, which means last time. And either way, either way, the reason why he did it was because he thought this was going to be the end of the series and he wanted to wrap it up quickly.
Poor guy.
And how did that go for him? Not well, because he ended up having to do many arcs in Dragon Ball Z. And there are also many spin-offs and extended series, some that he was involved with and some that he wasn't. So,
wow.
We'll get into all that too. All right, so that was my Dragon Ball Z intro. Are we ready to talk about Vegeta, or do you have Dragon Ball Z feelings you want to talk about?
I don't think I have anything that's going to add to that. I just had like I guess I assumed you were going to handle this.
Well, that's good. I did say I would,
yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah, mine is just like what was on the back of the cover.
Yeah.
And greatest fighting manga ever, which is on the back of every volume.
I mean, yeah. And there's so much more we could say about it too. Like when it first, we'll get into this a little more because I want to talk about my like involvement in the fandom in the 90s. But
yeah,
when it first came over too, they had to make they chose, I should say, to make changes for American television, some for censorship reasons and to make it seem less violent, but they also cut a lot of the episodes out and changed a lot of the wording and changed some of the graphics, like putting like a real picture of a tree to cover up, baby Gohan standing there at 2 years old naked. And it's just stuff where you're like, I don't think that's supposed to be there. Like, it's not illustrated.
Wow. Yeah, I don't even remember that.
So there was a lot of controversy kind of like from the beginning, because if you're just watching on Toonami, you're like, yeah, this is pretty cool. But as you can imagine, that made it even more confusing because now we have different episode numberings as well. Since they cut content out, it doesn't line up exactly with the Japanese episode numbers and
Yeah, I think it was like a long journey for like American production companies to realize that there are enough Americans that just want to see the anime. Like they don't have to change everything. I mean,
and that was kind of common like at the time, like with Power Rangers, right? Like they added American footage of English speaking kids and
yeah, I didn't even know about Power Rangers. I was thinking even like Sailor Moon, which was also coming over at the same time. Like that story that I watched on Toonami was not the actual story that was coming over from Japan. They changed whole lines when they did the dub.
Yes. They underestimated how much nerds would care. And we cared.
Yeah. They recut stuff. They changed story points. Plot points.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Oh, the same thing with like Pokemon, the Pokemon show. There's a special place in my heart, but they say instead of rice balls, they're eating hamburgers, which are obviously not hamburgers. Yeah. Just like all these things.
It's super complex. Like it totally is understandable why at the time. But I mean, I didn't understand why when I was 13. I was definitely like the angry kid on the forums. I was like, why did you do this to Bulma's character? But as an adult, I'm like, look, like we should also be thankful that we got anime in America and like, look where we are now, like 20 years later. Like it's pretty mainstream and that's really awesome. Okay, I'm ready to talk about Vegeta. When am I not? But I'm ready. Okay, so the spoiler-free summary of Vegeta. I don't even know where to begin. He's such an icon.
Do you want me to start? Because mine is not
Yeah.
going to be as good as yours.
Okay, you go first.
Okay, I wrote,
Fanning myself here.
this is so short. Vegeta is an incredibly arrogant and powerful alien. He's mostly driven by pride. He is also secretly a sad boy. He's good at fighting. That's what I wrote.
He's he would like, end his own life if he saw on his tombstone he's also good at fighting. Like
He's good at fighting.
if he wrote his own eulogy, it would be like, I am absolutely the most important and strongest person that's ever lived.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, no lies are told. Those are all true. Here is my spoiler-free summary. Goku's number one rival, and dare I say frenemy, is Prince Vegeta from the planet Vegeta. So he's got a whole planet named after him. It's really the other way around, but
Mm-hmm.
he shares the same species as Goku, I guess, the bloodline. They're both the same alien race, the Saiyans or the Saiyajins. And he considers himself far superior because he is a royal prince. He's a bloodline, you know. Unlike pure-hearted, dim-witted Goku, Vegeta is heartless, prideful, and clever, but they both share a passion for fighting and becoming the best in the universe, often training not just to save the world, but to prove themselves superior to each other. He provides the excitement and spice throughout the series. He's super entertaining to watch, whether he's kicking butt or failing, especially because he has got such an arc. And I think we're going to talk about this more. One of Goku's superpowers is turning villains into friends.
Yeah.
And Vegeta is one of many, but he has, I don't know, I feel like his arc is just so meaningful to all of the main Dragon Ball Z sagas. Like where he is emotionally in every saga, like is responsible greatly for who they're fighting and why they're fighting them and how hard that battle is.
Yeah.
Like he causes a lot of trouble even when he's not technically the villain anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that bit of chaos also really propels the plot forward.
Yeah. He's also really smart, like,
Yeah.
compared to everyone else in the
Yeah.
show.
He's really smart, and basically people consider Goku to be stupid, but Goku's not stupid about fighting, right? And so Vegeta kind of starts off completely like basically Goku's like beneath him, and then he kind of moves to a place of like respect and envy for Goku
Mm-hmm.
towards Goku, and then eventually kind of is like, well, he is a genius at fighting and
Mm-hmm.
honors that part of their relationship.
Yeah.
And there's more to say, but I can't till we get into spoilers, so I'll stop it there.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You want to move on to you might like this series?
Yeah. We can do that. Oh, you know what? We don't have any references that aren't other animes. Oh, I do have a couple of things that aren't just anime related.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if you don't watch anime, if you like things that are pretty campy and like over the top, like this just
Yeah.
cannot
Silly. Yeah.
you cannot guess. If you don't know the storyline of Dragon Ball Z, at any point if you close the book and I told you what happens like 20 chapters in advance, you would not be able to guess that. You would have no idea if I was making it up or not. Like it goes places that you cannot imagine.
It's a good point. And the anime has filler episodes too, which is pretty common for these kinds of anime. Essentially things that weren't in the manga because they will have like caught up to where the manga is often. It's basically it's faster to animate a sequence than it is to draw it. So sometimes they have to make up stuff. And some of the filler episodes of Dragon Ball Z are, like you're saying, the weirdest. Like, I mean, the one that always comes to mind is like Goku and Piccolo getting their driver's license. Like, come on. Like, that's
Okay,
amazing.
wow.
Why? Like,
they can fly.
Well, Chi Chi thinks they need to be responsible adults. So,
Oh, Chi Chi.
Chi Chi's Goku's wife. Anyways, yeah, I think that's a really good point. It is very wacky. It's still very funny. There's lots of funny moments.
It is funny. The sense of humor in Dragon Ball Z, I think I like better than Dragon Ball. personally. But yeah, if you love enemies to friends plots, this might have something for you. It's definitely like begrudging friends, but
Mm-hmm.
that it has a lot of that. And if you want to get into something that's lighthearted and silly and not going to make you sad and has a million issues or episodes, this is for you. Like, there's so much
Yeah.
to consume.
And if you like action movies, if you like martial art movies, I think you would like this because the fights are really clever. They are very creative. It's, you know, sometimes it comes down to just like who's stronger, but usually there's a lot of outwitting each other and strategy and last minute changes that switch it up. And I think that's what people find really entertaining about the fights in this series.
Yeah. And then we have some, if you've seen these other animes, but you've never watched Dragon Ball Z or read these other mangas, you'll probably like Dragon Ball Z. If somehow you saw these other ones first, the only way I can think of that happening is if somebody's like younger than us, I guess. Because like I don't know how you skip over Dragon Ball Z and get to these other ones.
Well, yeah, I think so. I think that younger generations, it's like whatever one you saw around that preteen time is like your first, right?
Yeah. And that's no judgment.
Yeah.
It's just like I feel like everyone I know knows Dragon Ball Z,
We're
you
not
know?
going to be those people who are like,
No.
well, it was good when I was your age, and therefore you need to watch this one first. Like, no,
No.
it's not like that. These are technically considered shonen animes. A lot of them are from Shonen Jump, which is like kind of like the group or I don't want to say company because I'm not exactly sure who owns what, but you'll see things like there'll be, you know, a video game called Shonen Jump Superstars, and all these characters will be in it because they're part of the group. Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, My Hero Academia, One Punch Man. The list goes on and on. Like, and they have very similar formats usually. There's usually kind of a plucky, innocent, or sweet main character who's thrown into this world of training in some way. And then there's like, you know, lots of interesting rivals with different abilities, and usually there's a tournament and or some kind of reoccurring force that means everybody has to train, level up to the next stage, and then when that's over with, a new villain or a new version of that comes to play. So they're kind of formulaic, but they're very comforting. Like it's a good formula that works well and is exciting to watch.
Okay. So I think we've gone through everything we're going to say that's not a spoiler. So we should get ready for part 2. But first, we're going to give you an idea of what you can expect in a part 2 episode. And then we're also going to tell you where you watch up to or read up to
Yeah.
like,
We're going to give you help. If you're starting
yeah.
fresh, if you're like, okay, I'm in, I'm curious, I want to watch this, I want to meet Vegeta, which you do, and trust me, you do.
Yep.
We're going to help you. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just a reiteration, in part 2, we're going to get into spoilers. We're going to talk about the Hot Baddies database and all of the qualifications, which we call tags, for why Vegeta is a candidate. And then we're going to talk about his first impression, his looks and personality. Is he relationship material? And then we're going to do some games, conspiracies, give him his final rating, and see if he's inducted into the club.
Spoiler alert, he is. Do you think there will ever come a time when we won't induct someone into the club? Like, do you think we'll read something and be like, actually, no, absolutely not?
I don't know, but I feel like because we are ranking them, there's probably like tiers of that, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe if it's like people submit ones to us that we check out, we won't know,
Yeah.
right? Both of us will go in blind.
Then I would feel bad, though. Be like, hey, thanks for submitting this. We are not adding this character to our Hot Baddies database. I guess we'll have to cross that bridge if we ever get to it.
Oh, no.
Okay, how to consume Dragon Ball Z. So we are recommending I guess the fandom, the Dragon Ball Z community chunks the story up into sagas, right? So you have like the
Yeah.
Saiyan saga, and then you have the Frieza saga, and then you have that goes up to like everything on Namek.
Yeah. We're going to say a bunch of words right now,
Yeah.
and you're not going to understand those words. We're asking for your trust. Of course, you
Yeah.
can deviate from this list, but if you're like, this seems like a lot, and I just want to get to the stuff that's relevant.
Yeah.
First of all, don't read Dragon Ball. Start with Dragon Ball Z.
Yes.
And as Liz said, at least read the Saiyan saga and the Frieza saga, which may also be called the Namek saga.
Right. And this will make sense as you're reading. You're going to read Raditz, Vegeta, Nappa, Frieza, everything on Namek. And that's like not required, but you will get the most out of the next like part 2 if you read up to that. We read all the way up to the end of the Cell saga.
Yeah. And there will be spoilers. There are things that happen in the Android saga and Cell saga that we are going to spoil in the next episode because they're very important.
Right. But you don't have to. You can still get, I think, a lot out of part 2 that we haven't recorded yet.
If you see the Garlic Jr. saga, you can ignore it.
You've gone too far.
Just gloss over it. If you're watching now, you're probably going to see there's also many different names for the different anime series, which also is stressful. You're going to see Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Z Kai, Dragon Ball GT, and Dragon Ball Super. So ignore Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball Super. You don't need these yet. You can choose to watch either Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Z Kai. Essentially, Kai was like they kind of visually upgraded, like remastered the colors and stuff of it. And I think they also dramatically cut down on filler. So if you want like a faster version of the anime, you can watch that one. And I'll let Liz tell you which numbers. This will also be in the show notes, I assume.
Yeah, we're going to put this in the show notes. This is too much to figure out. Okay, so for Dragon Ball Z Kai, which is the like remaster shortened down one, if you want to watch up to the Frieza / Namek saga, like through the end of that, you're going to watch up to episode 54. So Dragon Ball Z Kai through the Frieza saga is episode 54. If you want to go all the way through the Cell saga, you would stop after episode 98. And then for Dragon Ball Z anime, the original vanilla, that is the Frieza. So Dragon Ball Z, the Frieza episode is going to be in the dub. This is even more confusing. In the dub, it's episode 92. And by dub, we mean like if it has the English voices over it. If you want to watch it with subtitles, you have to watch all the way up to episode 107. I don't know why.
It's because of that cutting around that they did.
Oh.
You know, when they first brought it over.
Okay, so that's why.
Yeah.
So the sub is probably more accurate to the manga than the subtitle one.
Yeah, and personally, I find the sub voices a lot more... I don't want to be mean. I find them a lot more palatable to listen to.
All right. Okay, let me say it again. Okay, Dragon Ball Z through the Frieza saga, dub episode 92, sub episode 107. All the way through the Cell saga for Dragon Ball Z is episode 179 for the dub or 194 for the sub. And again, dub means that there's English voiceover. Sub means that you're watching it with subtitles with the Japanese audio, if you don't know.
And if you would prefer,
and we will not shame dub watching.
You can watch the dub. I only want to say if you're watching the dub and you're like, this sounds stupid, maybe try the subs because they tend to be a little more slapsticky and more like kind of, I don't know, like very like exaggerated voices sometimes. So I've just noticed for some people, they're like, oh, this is not for me if they get a sense of that, you know? Also, if you're looking for maybe an even faster way to consume it, that's kind of like more, I don't want to say true to the story, but it definitely won't have like the filler, and it'll be a different way to consume it, you can read the manga. The manga is translated, and both Liz and I were able to find it in our libraries. So
Mm-hmm.
you can save a lot of money that way if you are nervous about buying so many manga volumes. And it reads right to left if you're not used to that, because that is how Japanese people read. So, take a you'll practice for a little bit and it'll make sense.
They also try to help you, at least in the edition that I read, which was like a re-release where they would put 3 volumes in like one book. It had like, it would remind you at the top of every page with like a little running like Gohan at the top to read like right to left. Also, if you want to do the manga and you don't want to buy, I mean, we're talking about a dozen volumes, dozens of volumes, you can get the Shonen Jump app or the Viz Media app, and you can get a month free, and you have to read it chapter by chapter. So like each volume probably has like, I don't know, 10 chapters in it or something, maybe a little more. And you read it that way, but it's free for a month. So you can read a lot in a month if you're just like, that's the thing you do when you pick up your phone. And it's only like $2 or $3 a month after that. So that's pretty affordable and takes up a lot less space than 12 to 20 volumes of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, we also didn't say it, but the anime streaming, right? I'm assuming on Funimation.
It was hard. It was harder to find.
I bet it's streaming on Crunchyroll, but
It also, like, those things come and go. So it was harder for us to find it a little bit, but
yeah.
it could be easier when you're listening to this.
It was brought over by like it was translated by Funimation, so I feel like it's a pretty good chance that it's always going to be available on the Funimation network.
If you're trying to do it fast, though, I recommend reading it because if I recall, almost like half of the episode is like previously on and next time
Yeah.
on. And there's a lot of just like the type of showboating and just like panels of two people looking at each other, getting ready to beat the shit out of each other
Yeah.
is like 2 seconds when you're reading the comic. And it's like
Yeah.
3 episodes when you're watching the manga.
When I got into it, I watched the anime, and then when we refreshed ourselves this time, I read the manga, and I really liked the manga. It is more fast paced. You still get all the cute little moments and humor, and it's also just fun to just see how much care he takes in all the fight scenes and all the action. Like, it's really cool to see it illustrated. All right, do you want to go through the what chapters you need? Because as you said, there's actually two different releases. There's the blue and white covers, and then there's the red covers.
Right. Okay, so yeah, for the manga, so you don't make the mistake I made, like I said earlier, where like have accidentally checking out the wrong one and having to tell the librarian that you don't need it, which I tried not to be embarrassed about walking around with Dragon Ball Z, but I still was like a little bit.
Oh, I got mine all like through ebooks on
Oh
Kindle.
yeah, I had to put a hold on it and it had to get interloan transferred. And then there was a on the shelf, it was like all there with my name on it, like on hold, like all 10 volumes and like
Nice.
several of them I didn't actually need. Okay, so you don't make the same mistake. There are single volumes that have blue and white covers. If you see those are volumes that contain chapters. If you're reading on the app, there's going to be hundreds of chapters. And those chapters, there's like 10 or so chapters inside a blue and white cover volume. Then there's the red cover volumes, which actually have 3 of the blue and white volumes inside of them. And they have their own volume numbering system. Okay, so if you want to read the manga in the app up through the Frieza saga, the app is going to be through chapter 135. The blue and white covers is going to be through volume 12, and the red covers is going to be through volume 4. If you want to read up to this through the Cell saga, you're going to read up through chapter 226 on the app. You're going to read through volume 19 in the blue and white covers, and you're going to read through volume 7 in the Viz big edition, the red covers. Okay, I did it.
Why do I have a feeling that I'm going to draw a diagram of this? Make you a pretty flow chart.
In the Discord, we could just post a picture, like, here's a blue and white cover.
Yeah.
Here's the red cover, and, like, this is how you read it.
How are you trying to consume this?
Yeah.
Are you going to Frieza or Cell? This is the number you're looking for, right?
Yeah, that would be fun.
All right. I'll probably do it in my all of our free time. And like we said before, you could ignore Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball Super for now. We are going to talk about them a little bit in the spoiler section.
Right. So go read or watch that and then come back for part 2.
Yes. And if it seems overwhelming, just start it. Just start it, give it a few episodes, at least get to the fight with Vegeta. See what you think. He gets better with age, like a fine wine. So, if you're still like, I don't know what's going to happen with this guy, he's going to get better. So, and that's it. That's it for our spoiler-free episode. Once again, I'm Miko. You can find me on Twitter or Twitch as Dr. Mikachu or Dr. Mikachu.
And I'm Liz. You could find me on Twitter at LizMakes or Illuminated Space almost everywhere else.
Yep, and check the show notes for our Discord link.
The podcast website is hotbaddies.club. Head over to links.hotbaddies.club for links to all our social media. You can join our Discord community by going to discord.hotbaddies.club. Our theme song is The Hot Baddies Club by Ryako. You can find the song and the rest of her amazing music on her Bandcamp website, ryako.bandcamp.com. That's ryako.bandcamp.com.
And this is the Hot Baddies Club, so we'll see you next time for the spoiler edition.
You've awakened inside me a feeling I cannot deny. You impress me, possess me, the thought of you gets me so high. Wanna stay here forever, the rest of the world can go by, but I don't know why.
Is it time? Are we doing this?
Yeah, we're doing this. It's happening. It's really happening.